Hey everyone, Chef Alex here at the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, funded by the Beef Checkoff. Thanks for joining me today. Sorry we can't be live today, but that's all right. We're gonna get started with a tasty Thai burger recipe that we developed a few years back here at NCBA. This is one of my favorite burger recipes. I love Thai food. That's my favorite thing to cook. It's a question I get asked all the time, so this is definitely one of my favorite recipes online. It uses so many different ingredients in there. We got peanut butter, we got hoisin sauce, we got some spicy chili, all great things, great umami, which we all know that umami, it just enhances that overall beef flavor, brings that to the forefront of your palate. It's so delicious. So this is one of my favorite recipes. Let's go ahead and get started. Hope you guys are cooking along with me. If not, this is a great video nonetheless. But let's get started. I got my ground beef here. We can talk a little bit about that. And so the ground beef that I'm using today is actually a lean ground beef. We decided to do a lean ground beef for this recipe just because there's so many other flavors going on. The hoisin will bring out some of that umami flavor, so you're already going to get that extra beef flavor. We don't necessarily need all that extra fat in there, so using this lean ground beef is what's going to work best for us. When we developed this recipe, we looked at different burger blends. We know that you can always use sirloin, more lean. That's what we're using today, more of a sirloin versus a chuck end there. We don't have any brisket in there either, mainly just a sirloin blend in here. When you think about development and you think about recipe development as far as your burgers go, burger blends really are the forefront of that recipe development. So think about what you're developing, think about your culture, think about what your influence is. You can always research what cultures do for their burger blends, what cuts they have available to them, and that'll kind of help you develop this burger blend. When you're doing your burger blends also, if you're doing these from scratch, make sure that you guys are taking proper care of the safety measures that go into that, making sure that your grind is perfect and that you're keeping it cool and consistent, so that way there's no chance of getting anyone sick or anything like that. So make sure that when you guys are developing this, to keep those things in mind, those safety measures and all of that. So let's get started here. We're actually going to take this burger blend here and we're going to add some of our ingredients. We got about half a cup of green onions here. Those are going to go in there. I've just chopped those up really finely. Those are fantastic. They smell great. So I got some chili paste here. I am just using a pretty standard chili paste. You guys can kind of get a little bit creative with that. You can do something a little bit different. Maybe a sriracha will work, but I like this one because it's got some of those big chili flakes in there, as you can kind of see. They look fantastic. That just kind of adds that extra little bit of texture in there. And then I am going to throw in some fresh ginger paste as well. And that ginger is just going to enhance that umami-ness in there as well. I'm going to mix this together. And now I'm going to be sure not to overmix this. We don't want a tough burger patty. We don't want it to be like a dense hockey puck when we take a bite into it. We want it to be nice and juicy and light. So we're going to be careful not to overmix this. If I had more time available to me, I would probably let this rest actually in my fridge. That way it'll make sure that it doesn't overwork that way. It kind of gives that resting period that it can help it if you did accidentally overmix it. But we're just going to be sure to be light and get in here and kind of mix this around real fast and be careful not to overwork it. But we want to make sure that we do mix all of this evenly throughout the burger, because we just don't want a clump of hot chili in there when you take a bite, or we just don't want a big chunk of green onion that we bite into. So there's definitely a fine balance when mixing up your burger. I've only been in here for about 10-15 seconds and it's already pretty well mixed up here. There's no addition of egg or anything or breadcrumbs into this. The green onions and the ginger will kind of help bind that together a little bit and help us keep a more uniform burger patty. All right, so another tip for when we make our burger patties here, as you can see, I got my little sheet tray. I actually have a ring mold here as well. These work great for making your own burger patties. Keeps it more consistent. When we cook, we want to make sure that the patties are nice and consistent all the way through. That way, some that aren't overcooking and some aren't undercooking. They're all cooking at the same time because they're all the same size. Making sure that you weigh out your burger patties is also great. But keeping this ring mold, you can use one of these I bought at the store. You don't have to be so professional. You can use like a spice lid from a spice container, and that will actually work just as well. Something that will just kind of keep a shape. When we're thinking about size of our ring mold, we want to make sure that it is bigger than our burger bun. And we can kind of see here that this one is slightly bigger than our burger bun, which is great because that burger is going to shrink up a little bit. So that way we make sure that that patty is still quite a good size. We don't have just bun sitting by itself. We don't want that either. We want to make sure that all of our bites are consistent when we're taking that final bite. So let's go ahead and make these up. I'm just going to pull a little bit off of here. If I had room or time here, I would scale these up and make sure that they're all the same weight. But for today's purposes, we're just going to get these in this ring mold here. I'm going to push down a little bit on them, making sure that everything is even. You can always add a little bit more like I'm doing here. I see that one side was kind of not as even as the others. So I'm just going to make sure that's pressed out here. And then I can just remove my burger mold there. And here I'll show you guys a little bit. It looked fantastic. There we go. That looks great already. We're just going to build another one here, and we'll get grilling. So as you can see over here, on the other side of me, I have my grill ready to go. I'm actually just using a plancha today. These are great. They're cast iron. You can pick them up pretty cheap. They're great for cooking on the stove top if you don't have an outside grill available to you. They get those great grill marks. You get kind of that taste to it as well. Of course, you can always use a skillet. Skillets work great for burgers as well. Making sure that you have that great skillet is also fantastic. All right. There we go. I got my burgers already made right there. And just before I get these on the grill, what I'm going to do is I actually have my Napa cabbage here. I'm going to get this marinating. This is a good step to get ahead of time. We just kind of want to soften this cabbage up a little bit. So I just got a little bit of fresh lime juice here, about a tablespoon worth, and I'm just going to coat that cabbage with that. I'm going to give this a little stir. This is kind of like a mock kimchi, as we could see here. You can always use kimchi on this burger if you didn't want to use this fresh Napa cabbage. You can always use a kimchi to get that Thai flavor, that development. Works really nice. So we're just going to kind of put this off to the side. That'll be a topping for our burger at the end. And now I got this preheated, my plancha here. I got it on high heat. And now I'm going to get these burgers on. You can already hear that sizzle. Fantastic. We knew that was ready to go. Great. Now, while these cook up, we're going to make sure that we take good care of them while we're cooking them. We don't want to overflip them. We don't want to cut into them and lose all that juice. We want to make sure that we're not stabbing into them either. We're going to use some tongs to flip them. You can always use a spatula, whatever you have available. Just making sure that we're not piercing that and letting all those juices come out over it. You can see that we worked in that burger blend pretty well in there. Those green onions look great. They're distributed nice and well in there. And it's already starting to caramelize on the bottom there. We can see, and it looks fantastic. So just making sure that we're not pushing down on these burgers as well is another great tip. We don't want those juices coming out, like I said before, but not pushing down on them. We're just kind of going to let them sit here. We're going to let them caramelize on the one side. We'll give them a flip, making sure that they taste great. Make sure that we're playing around with our heat while we're cooking burgers, okay? A big mistake with consumers, they just leave whatever heat source is just super high and think that that's going to cook it faster or cook it more evenly or whatever they're trying to do. That's not great because you're going to end up too much char on there and it turns into a hockey puck as well. Just like over mixing it, it'll just make a dense burger and we don't want that either. Making sure that we take good care of this. We play around with our heat source a little bit. You might see me do that from time to time. It's fantastic. Whatever you're using, whether it's a grill, a plancha, or a skillet, making sure that you adjust that heat accordingly, not too low, but also not too high, and taking good care of our burgers. If we're doing a skillet, you can always start your oven at like 375, 400, and you can get a sear in your pan and throw it right down in the oven. That'll save on that mess. That'll kind of keep them more moist as well. You don't have to worry about flipping so much, and that's a great technique as well. Also, while we're getting ready here, we got our grill going. Making sure that we have a thermometer on hand is essential. This is just an instant read thermometer. We want to make sure that we're cooking at safe temperature for the beef, 160 minimum internal temperature on that. So making sure that we can take our temperatures as we go. This is a great tool to have. You can see that it just has a little point in here. That's not going to let the juices flow out of there. I know I hear a lot of times consumers are like, well, if you're poking it, aren't the juices coming out? Well, yes, a little bit, but keeping a small tip like this is essential, and making sure that we're not poking them too much to take those temperatures just a couple times throughout the process. We want to make sure that that burger is nice and safe to eat. So I make sure I got that handy for myself as well. I got my burger buns here. We'll toast those up once we get a little bit closer here. In addition to this recipe, and something you can play around with and be a little creative, is I got some red cabbage. It's not in the recipe at all, but it just kind of adds that nice brightness to it. It pairs well with that green that we have going on here, that we have marinating. And just look at that vibrant colors on there. They look fantastic. So that's a little addition to it. Cabbage is very common in Thai food. We're not going to actually do too much with this because I kind of want that crispy crunchiness to it. So we're just going to kind of leave this alone, but it's an addition that we're adding to it as far as our creativity goes and things like that. All right, let's check on these burgers here and see how we're doing. We got some nice color going on. I'm going to give these a nice flip. We got some nice grill marks, as you can see there. That plancha is working really well. I'm inside cooking today, and you can tell that these look like I cooked them outside, so they look fantastic. And this is, like I said, a great way of cooking burgers for sure, especially in your house. I have one of these in my house because I don't like going outside in the wintertime and cooking burgers and steaks. I can just do it right inside, and it's fantastic. It already smells fantastic. You can actually smell that chili coming through, and that's what we wanted when we developed this recipe. We want to make sure that it was very distinct and very pronounced. That's something to keep in mind when you're developing a recipe and things like that, that we have some of those flavors going on and that smell. You can even maybe see here in a close-up shot, you'll see that some of this liquid on the top here, normally it's clear, but it's a little bit red looking, and that's because of the chili oil that's in there. That kind of turns it that little reddish color, and it's very, very nice and very, very authentic with Thai cooking and things like that. So while we got those going, we have a sauce I say, for the bun here. It's more of a spread, I guess. So we're gonna make that up here. So traditional in Thai food, there's always some kind of a peanut. We got a little bit of creamy peanut butter here. We're just gonna plop in this bowl here. About a tablespoon in there. I also got that hoisin sauce that I was telling you about. Great umami flavor, pairs super well with the burger. Just adding that in. Something like soy sauce also has that great umami flavor to it and just enhances that overall beef flavor. A little bit of lime juice is going in there as well. And then I have a little bit of toasted sesame. And you don't want to go too much with the toasted sesame. It's a very powerful ingredient. It can really make or break the dish, and so just a little bit goes a long way. And so we're just going to kind of mix this up a little bit here and create our nice little spread. You can always add other things to this. If you have a little bit of green onion left over, maybe you didn't quite use it all in your burger blend there, you can add a little bit of green onion into this as well. A few other spices, maybe a little bit of garlic, fresh garlic in there would also work just as well. A little bit of the ginger paste. The world is your oyster when you're thinking about Asian cooking and just building flavors. That's all it is all building flavors. And so that's what we're doing here, is just building these flavors. And that's what's so great about Thai cooking. That's what I like so much about it. It just builds so much good flavors and really makes just such a great dish overall. All right, so we built our sauce here. It's already mixed up. After we toast our burger buns, that'll go right on the tops of those buns. And then, of course, our accompaniments here as well. We're going to check on our burgers. They're still looking good. I'm just going to kind of move them around. This is okay to do. You can move things around like this on your grill. That's totally fine. You'll notice that some areas are more hot than others, and that's totally great. What we're doing is we're not flipping too much. We don't want to flip. That'll make that kind of a dense hockey puck kind of style burger like I was talking about earlier. So we just want to make sure that we can keep moving around just like I'm doing like this. There's no problem there at all doing this. But we're making sure that we're not flipping too much. We can flip. Flipping a couple times is great. just because, as you see, this top part, it's not having any contact with the surface. It's kind of cooling down. So we want to make sure that we flip that back over and we're still continuing that cooking once we get that sear on this other side. And actually, that's what I'm going to check right now. It does have a great sear, so I am going to flip. This will help our cooking process out along nicely. And I'm just going to play with my heat here a little bit. And what I'm doing is I'm adjusting this backside here so that way when I toast my buns, they're not going to get too toasty on there. And let me tell you, this just smells fantastic. And this recipe, I love it. I just love Thai food so much. It's so good. You're going to have a lot of those rich umami flavors, and we can talk a little bit more about those. If we're not making Thai food, we can still have that umami richness in there with mushrooms. Tomato products always have umami in them, and so that just builds on that flavor, and like I said, enhances that beef overall, and it's fantastic. It actually makes the beef smell and taste more pungent, and you'll pick that up on your taste buds on the front of your tongue. You'll get that kind of that bitterness a little bit, but the umami just coats the entire tongue. It's just fantastic, and that's what really will shine when we bite into this burger here. Okay, I'm actually going to check the temperature of those before I throw my buns on here. I'm just going into the center of the burger here. You can always go from the top down like I am doing, or you can come in here from the side just like that. That also works, just as long as you're getting that center. Okay, and it's important to kind of move this around in here. You'll see the temperature will kind of fluctuate a little bit, to making sure that we find that lowest spot, that lowest temperature spot, and that we're making sure that that is cooking all the way. So these are going well. They just need a few more degrees. We'll kind of keep those going. I am going to start my buns now. I'm just going to throw these right on. And we're going to keep an eye on those. We don't make sure that those burn or anything like that. I'm going to play with that heat a little bit back there, making sure that those are great. I'm just going to move these burgers a little bit back. Fantastic. Man, it smells so good in here, and I can't wait to try these burgers. They're just so good. When we talk about flavor profiles and we talk about flavors here, when we built this burger, we have a little bit of everything, and that's kind of what you want when you got your burger. Whether you're thinking about your bun, we have a nice brioche bun here, which is nice and soft. It's kind of going to give that buttery feel to it, and that's great for this recipe. We have some spiciness. We have that umami-rich burger right here. Then we have our sauce, and our sauce is great because we need to have that sauce when we bite into that burger. It needs to have that sauce that kind of coats the whole thing, coats the bun, it coats the burger. And what we have there with the peanut and the hoisin just adds to that umami-ness. It's just fantastic. We need that creamy kind of element to it, whether it's a mayonnaise-based sauce, whether it's a peanut-based sauce here, or whether it's more of like a Thousand Island, a secret sauce kind of base. You need that. Then what you need is you need to have some kind of a crunch element to it. We're going to get a lot of crunch here from our cabbage, and our Napa cabbage is going to be a little bit on the softer side, but it's going to add that color that we want. Having that crunch factor, just bite into that burger. A lot of times with pickles, those will add that crunch flavor to it, or maybe some fried onion straws on there or something like that. We'll just kind of add that crunchiness to it that we're looking for. I'm just going to check my buns here while I talk. Those are looking great. Just a couple more minutes on those. We need that crunchiness to it. For this recipe, you'll notice that there's no cheese at all. Cheese can be great, cannot be great. We have that creamy element coming from this peanut butter, so we don't really need the cheese in this recipe. Maybe in a different recipe, you want that cheese, you want that saltiness. We don't need any extra salt today in this recipe because that peanut butter has a little bit of salt in it. The hoisin has some salt. The chili paste has that salt in it. So we don't need any extra salt in this recipe. There's already going to be quite a bit. So that's important to think about when you're developing this, the overall saltiness of this. We didn't need to add any extra salt to this recipe. And so I'm just going to give these another flip. This will be my last flip here. Those look great. We don't need that extra salt to it, so keep that in mind. We don't need that cheese, so the cheese, you're not going to really miss it. If we're thinking about Thai culture, there's not going to be a lot of cheeses in Thai culture. They're going to be more focused on vegetables and sauces and more ingredients as far as spices and herbs go. So that's kind of where we hit those notes in this for sure. All right, I'm gonna check these buns. These buns look perfect. Get a little nice color on there. Those look great. And while I wait, I'm actually gonna start dressing these. I'm gonna start getting this creamy peanut butter going here. I'm just gonna put a little bit on there, not too much. Probably about half a tablespoon to a tablespoon's worth. Just gonna spread evenly on there, making sure that we get all those corners. Every bite should taste the same. And that's what we're looking for. That nice, perfect bite every time. All right. Burgers are looking good. Let's take another temperature. You saw that I only took the temperature of these twice. So this will be our deciding factor here, whether these are close to being done or not. Sorry, here, I'm gonna adjust my thermometer. There we go. Great. Perfect. Okay, these are pretty close to being done. I'm actually going to pull them off and let them rest. I'm actually going to sear up the side a little bit, just because I like to see the sides get a little sear on them. It just makes that overall better bite. And so I'm just going to kind of roll these on here just like that. And you can see that they're already searing on the sides there. I just like a nice crispy bite all the way through. So that's why I sear my sides of there a little bit, just like I would a steak. Okay, I'm gonna pull these off. These are gonna rest. They're gonna continue to cook a little bit, not like a roast or anything like that. They do need a little bit of time just to kind of let those juices redistribute through there. They are gonna come up a little bit in temperature, but not too much. I actually pulled them off at about 159, 158 on both of these, so they should be at 160 as I let them rest here. I'm gonna turn my heat off. Okay, boom, those look fantastic. All right, they're gonna continue to rest. I can continue to build my burger. I'm just gonna give that Napa cabbage that I have there with a little bit of lime juice a little bit more of a toss here before I put it on. This would be great to let sit in your fridge for a little bit. Just kind of let it develop those flavors with that lime juice in there. All right. Nice top there. That's going to stick to that peanut butter, and that's kind of what's going to hold it on there a little bit. When you're thinking about building these burgers, you want to think about your layering and all of that. You don't want to put lettuce right on top of this burger because this is going to wilt it. We want to make sure that, there's some separation going on here. And actually what I'm going to separate, you'll see I don't want this Napa cabbage to wilt on here. I'm okay with a little bit of this red cabbage, though, kind of getting in contact with that burger there, softening it just ever so slightly from the heat from the burger, and that's totally fine. It'll still be nice and crunchy. Just going to top both of those with a little bit of red. That looks fantastic. Just going to flip these on top. Nice little push down. Push down kind of will help hold it a little bit, just as long as you're not pushing down too much. We don't want a flat burger. Perfect. And there we go. Those are our Thai burgers. They look fantastic. All right, guys, there you have it. There's our Thai burger recipe. If you guys want to check out beefitswhatsfordinner.com for this recipe for more ideas, inspiration, more about burger blends, more recipes, just ideas in general. I always go online to look for ideas to kind of get my creative juices going. Check out beefitswhatsfordinner.com. You'll find everything you need to know on there. You'll see those great recipes. You'll see burger blends, things to think about when you're developing recipes, burgers in general. All of that can be found on beefitswhatsfordinner.com. Thank you so much, guys, for joining me today. I look forward to your questions coming soon. Thanks so much.